Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for joining so early if you are in India and joining a bit late if you are in US. I am assuming everybody can hear me clearly. Let us get started. Today, we are going to discuss about cloud computing. You don't need to have any kind of background experience. I will try to explain in very layman terms. If you have any doubt, feel free to ask. And in further weeks, we will learn more and more deep into cloud computing and especially into getting certified for the cloud practitioner certification. Okay, this is the first of the cloud computing series of discussions, and we will be focusing on AWS cloud practitioner certification throughout this series. But for this particular session, we will be focusing on cloud computing 101, and hope you know what a 101 is. So that is something which most universities call for their introductory courses. And for going to the next screen, you can also see how I look different in the picture and in person or in video. This is my lockdown look, and the one in picture is my pre-lockdown look. I have written two books on cloud computing named Serverless Programming Cookbook and AWS Security Cookbook. And many people, especially my friends and students of other streams like Java and English language classes, were actually asking what this cloud computing is. I thought it would be a good opportunity to conduct a uh, free webinar series to talk about cloud computing, especially focusing on people who do not have any knowledge of cloud at all, and make them capable enough to get certified and start working on cloud. And so clouderx.com and javaji.com are my blogs, and I have set up few forwarders like hartin.work, hartin.me, hartin.info, and hartin.cloud to my LinkedIn page, FB page, my Google knowledge panel, and our discussion group for this particular learning program. Okay, that is hartin.cloud. So you can go to any of these shortcuts and join them or connect with me. And I would also like to give something special for all those people who joined early. All of you who are present now can either go to hartin.work or hartin.me, and then you can just message that I joined early. FB page would be preferred because even my students and team also be able to respond to you faster. So this is our agenda for today. So first we will have a thought of the week, and we will get introduced to cloud computing. And after that, we will have a small introduction to AWS Cloud and certifications on AWS Cloud. But we will have a detailed introduction to these topics in next session. We will have some time for discussing about ideas for a cloud career, and I will also be answering your career Q&A related to cloud. We will have a quiz championship in the end. We will also have a surprise of the week, which I believe you will definitely like. And thought of the week: the person who stops studying merely because he has finished school is forever hopelessly doomed to mediocrity, no matter what may be his calling. The way of success is the way of continuous pursuit of knowledge. If you want to reach heights, then you have to continue learning even after you stop your college studies or your formal studies. Many famous personalities have become what they are now because they used to study extra, like half an hour or 1 hour or some amount of time per day to study something that is according to their long-term goals. We can interact through various ways. So chat is for general discussions, and Q&A can be used for asking me any questions. And live poll app is something you can visit this link hartin.live whenever I say so, and the winners after every stage will be shown here. We have a cloud practitioner course on a platform called Teachable. So this is a paid app that I use to host my contents, so that you can answer quizzes, you can get your grades, you can watch it from your mobile app or even from computer. So there are a lot of benefits. So the first prize winner for today will get it for free. Part 1, introduction to cloud computing. Before going into what cloud computing is, let us understand a bit of history of computing itself that made cloud computing possible. Bare metal can be considered as a computer. This bare metal machine we can use by installing an operating system on it, and then you can use it as a single host machine. So server virtualization is the concept through which a single host machine can be used to host multiple virtual machines. The software that enables managing virtual machines on a host machine is referred to as a hypervisor. There are two kinds of hypervisors in general. So one is a hypervisor that can be installed directly on the bare metal, and then all your virtual machines will be installed on top of that. Okay, and then those virtual machines will have their operating systems. And the type 2 hypervisors actually are installed on top of an operating system. You have a bare metal machine, you install operating system on top of it, and on top of that you actually install your hypervisor, and hypervisor will allow you to configure multiple virtual machines. So this is mostly used for testing things, or when you want to have a different operating system for working on certain things. For example, you are working on Windows operating system, and then you need a Linux based operating system for doing something else, so that you can host that Linux based system on top of your Windows based system. The next biggest change or innovation that is still relevant today is containers. Containers are lightweight mechanisms than virtual machines that you can install on a bare metal based host machine or even a virtual machine. You can have multiple containers on top of a virtual machine or a normal host machine. And these containers are lightweight and can be started and stopped much faster than actually starting and stopping a virtual machine or a normal host machine. If you want to understand containers better, you can compare it with a shipping container. So you package everything into a container, and then that container is taken to a different location as a single unit. Similar is the case with container. You package everything that you need into this container, and this container is started and stopped whenever you need access to those services that are within that container. One of the advantages of this container mechanism is that it allows you to encapsulate everything that is required for your application into a single unit. So when I started my career initially, there was no concept of containers. And then we used to develop applications and then provide to another testing team. So testing team used to test it, and then they will tell, okay, this is not working for me. And then developers used to say, no, it is working on my environment. And again, when it goes to production, they might have some issues which is completely not reproducible in your local machine. All those things are now gone with containers, because you are actually taking the whole environment, and then it is moved to different environments. So you cannot go wrong on anything. It is the same environment, so you cannot say that it was working on developer environment and not working on the testing environment, because with containers everything is encapsulated and taken from one environment to the other. And so Docker is one of the most popular container product available. Okay, which company created Docker? Can you go to heartin.live, and then it will redirect you to this particular URL, paulev.com/heartinjk999. You can either directly type paulev.com/heartinjk999, or you can type heartin.live, and then it will take you to this particular Paul app. And you can do it from your mobile also. You can watch this session from your system. And you can do the poll from your mobile. Which company created Docker? You can all answer. The answer is .cloud Inc. Docker was started by a company called .cloud Inc. And the concept of Docker and Docker itself became very popular. That the company itself changed its name to Docker Inc. So that will tell you how important Docker is, or the concept of containerization itself is. Container orchestration. Containers became very popular. Next important challenge was how to manage containers. So if I have one container, it is fine. But when I have many different containers for many different purposes, which I would have to manage all of them, and then somebody should help me manage those containers. And that is done by container orchestration. And Kubernetes is one of the most popular tools out there for container orchestration. And it was originally started as an internal project in Google, and it was later made open source. Do you know currently which organization actually manages the Kubernetes project? You can try to answer in the poll. Okay, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and your answer is correct. Let us now understand the history of cloud computing itself. Before cloud computing, we had data centers, okay? And those people who are sitting on the other side will be actually giving you some portion of the computing and networking and storage that is available on in their data centers. And this is a pic of a data center. And the problem was that somebody has to manually provision these resources. It used to take time to actually provision. You make a request, it may take some time to provision. When you hear about the term cloud computing, and if you are completely new to cloud computing, you may be wondering how what is this thing called cloud computing and how it is related to the cloud that I see most of the day when I look up into the sky. So cloud computing is doing compute on somebody else's platform. It might look like it is same as what we saw with data centers. There also we were doing computing on somebody else's hardware. So what is the difference here? Here everything is automated, so that you do not have to worry about somebody provisioning these resources and taking time to get back to you. If you want a resource on cloud, you can provision it by your own. You can start a server, you can stop a server, you can start a service, you can stop a service. All these things are automated, so you do not have to wait for somebody to do it manually. So you don't have to wait for it. So that is first thing. And second thing is, you pay only for use. It is completely up to you how much you will be charged based on the resources you use, based on the time you use them. Okay, and then we have different abstractions for cloud computing. So at each abstraction, there will be certain things that will be done by the cloud provider, and there will be certain things that you need to do. For example, you can set the abstraction level as infrastructure, or you can set it as platform, you can set it as software, you can set it as container, you can set it as function, or you can even set it as a backend. Okay, and all these things are generally referred by appending as a service, because in cloud you get everything as a service. It is not within your on-premise machine or whether in your system, you are getting it as a service. Anything that you get as a service, you pay for that service for whatever time you use them. And first level of abstraction is infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. It abstracts the physical infrastructure, meaning you will get virtual machines. We saw how virtual machines or server virtualization abstracted the bare metal in the earlier part, right? So similarly here, you will get access to virtual machines. You can start virtual machines, you can stop virtual machines. Virtual machines are just machines on the other side with operating system. So you can do whatever you do in your local machine on that virtual machine. So if you have to set up a software, based application, you have to install that software, you have to patch your operating system, you have to do everything that you would normally do on your on-premise system. The only thing is somebody else is hosting that, and you don't have to pay upfront price to actually acquire it. And second is platform as a service, where you do not worry about operating system or the virtual machine. You directly get your software platform. For example, Amazon has something called as Amazon RDS, where you can create your databases. You do not worry about the operating system. You do not worry about patching them, upgrading them, or anything. And then the next abstraction that happened was software as a service, the Gmail and other online services that you use. You are not worried about the security of the hardware or this platform that hosts it. You are only worried about your uh, application security based on the password you set. And this is just a diagrammatic representation of the abstractions. On premise, everything you have to manage. In infrastructure as a service, until the virtualization management, your cloud provider will take care, and then rest you have to manage. And in a platform as a service, until the runtime, the platform cloud provider will manage, and the rest you have to manage. And in software as a service, everything your provider will manage, and you have to only worry about using that software and using a decent password or other authentication mechanism. And then came multi-cloud pass, where some providers such as Cloud Foundry and Heroku came up with platforms that can be deployed across different cloud providers. For now, consider them as same platform as a service, but here you are not restricted to one particular platform like AWS or Azure or anything. And then another important change that happened in the cloud computing area is the introduction of serverless computing. Serverless computing does not mean you do not have any servers. So servers are always there. The only thing is you do not worry about a server or platform or anything. So you write your code, and you just tell your cloud provider that, okay, this is a Java code that is written for Java 8 platform. You just specify the runtime, and then everything else will be taken care by the cloud provider. You do not have to install that the software that is required to run your application, or even you do not have to think about scalability. The only thing you have to configure is the RAM or the memory in case of Amazon. Everything else will be taken care for you by the cloud provider. And how is this done by the cloud provider? And for this, they make use of containers. So whenever you make a request, they will start this container. Whenever you do not get request for some time, the cloud provider will automatically shut down that container. And imagine you had to do this with virtual machines. If somebody connect your website, and if you try to start your virtual machine, by the time your operating system boots up, the person would have easily gone to your competitor, right? And and that is not the only advantage with function as a service. And most cloud providers also will charge you only for the request you receive, or only when you actually use it. If you in traditional cloud computing, if you take a server, and then if you build a web application, you have to run that web application all the time. It is true that you will be charged only for the time that server is running, but if you have built a web application, can you stop that server? You have to run it always, so it will be charged always, right? With serverless computing, most platforms will only charge you for the time you get requests. So that means if you are not getting any requests, you will not be charged at all. Isn't that a wonderful thing for, especially for startups? You can build a website without any cost, and if you are not getting any users, you don't have to pay anything. So you can start a startup without any cost if you are good with serverless computing technologies. And that is the where I wrote my first book, and it was titled Serverless Programming Cookbook. So there are three types of clouds. One is public cloud, where it is it is open for everybody, and then we have a private cloud that is open for only that particular organization or whomever they want to open it for. And hybrid is a combination of a private and public cloud. Public cloud providers include Amazon, Azure, GCP, IBM Cloud, Google Cloud, Alibaba Cloud, and all. And private cloud include companies such as VMware. And hybrid cloud is a combination of these two. I have been part of a development team that actually built a hybrid cloud product called Amazon RDS on VMware, where you manage everything on your public cloud, which is Amazon, but your actual data reside on your private cloud, which is VMware in this particular case. The popular cloud providers that are available today, AWS has the maximum market share as of today. Then we have Azure, GCP, IBM Cloud, Oracle Cloud, and Alibaba Cloud. Okay, who is responsible for managing operating system? This is a used mainly for testing your knowledge while we learn, and most of this question will be repeated again in the end. And so that is when you will be getting prices. Okay, example for multi-cloud pass. And we have many people joining. Which of the following is true? Okay, type 1 hypervisors run VMs directly over bare metal. Type 2 runs on top of an operating system. Are cloud native applications specific to cloud providers? You can answer yes or no in the chat. Yeah, I can see responses telling it is cloud provider specific. So that is a general misconception that people has. Okay, so cloud provider specific means I am doing something specific to Amazon cloud or Azure cloud or GCP or any other cloud. But cloud native in general is used to represent something that is made for the cloud, and it is applicable for all the clouds. But the problem is it is very common that it is very difficult to change it. So if you change to something like cloud friendly, cloud ready, cloud optimized, it won't look good, or it won't be as catchy as the term cloud native. And then what are the advantages of cloud computing? We do things on demand. Okay, so on demand is the term that we generally use to refer to cloud computing. So it provides us an opportunity to replace the expensive hardware that we need to procure otherwise. So if I am a startup and then I need to build a machine learning application, I will need to invest a lot on hardware or data centers before actually I can build my application. And what if my startup does not do good? All my money is going to be wasted, and then for the rest of my life I will have to live with that memory of losing everything that I had. And cloud computing does not allow that. So you can procure servers and services on demand, and then you can stop them or kill them off if your idea or startup does not click for any reason. So, and the second thing is businesses no longer need to plan and procure servers and IT infrastructure weeks and months in advance. So, if you are there in IT for some time, you might have seen the time taken for allocating virtual machines in most of the companies. So, you make a request that I need a virtual machine for this kind of testing or that kind of testing, and then some admins will provision it. It may take a day or days, week, or even months. And with cloud computing, you can just provision just by making a click. Instantly spin up hundreds and thousands of servers in minutes and deliver results faster. Yeah, pay per use You only pay for what you use and not for anything else. Okay, let us wait for a minute more to start, but I will answer the questions that are right there in your Q&A. First question is, I am creating a POC application. May I know what are the services that are available in monitoring and security purpose? So for monitoring and security, you have many services and that are specific to cloud providers. And within Amazon, you have a good list of services that you can use for monitoring and security purposes. And I have written a whole book on it. Okay, it is titled as AWS Security Cookbook. And even though those services are not part of this course, we will still discuss them in one of our sessions towards the end. So once we cover our cloud practitioner certification syllabus, we will definitely have two bonus sessions. One to discuss about serverless computing, which is the topic of my first book, and second about AWS monitoring and security services. And since you are currently doing a POC and you want more details on it, I would be more than happy to help you offline or schedule a one-off meeting in between for interested people. For that purpose, just go to heartin.me towards my Facebook page and just remind me so that I will schedule it and I will let you know. If anybody else would also like to attend this session on monitoring and security on AWS Cloud, you can just go to heartin.me. You will be taken to my Facebook page and you can message me there. I will let you know because we want to stick to the agenda for today. In part one, we saw what cloud computing is in general. We saw the history of cloud computing. We saw the history of computing itself. And I assume everybody know what cloud computing is and what are its abstractions like infrastructure as a service or platform as a service, software as a service, function as a service. Function as a service is nothing but serverless. And even backend as a service. So backend as a service is also considered as serverless these days. AWS, and it was started in 2006. So they have hundreds of services now. And for each and every use case, you will most probably find a service in AWS. It is suited for a variety of use cases. Like you can host your web applications, you can host your websites, you can set up a backup and storage mechanism. You can use it for your enterprise IT. You can use it for content delivery. You can use it for hosting your databases. There is no limit to what you can do with AWS cloud. Okay, and so then we have something called as shared responsibility model. So we will discuss shared responsibility model in detail in our further sessions. But just to give an idea about how the responsibility is shared in a public cloud model, some of the responsibilities like the hardware and other things are the responsibility of the cloud provider, while as a user we also have certain responsibilities. Like if we are in a IaaS model, infrastructure as a service model, we will have to take care of patching our operating system. But if you are in a PaaS model, then Amazon will be responsible for patching that operating system. So based on the abstraction that we use, the responsibility will change. Okay, and in any case, the responsibility of our data is up to us, and we will see how we can make sure our data is safe by making sure it is replicated, by making sure the access is proper. All those things we will see in our subsequent sessions. Certification is not a requirement for any of these jobs. If you have enough knowledge and if you can prove that, you will definitely get a job. But certification will help you choose a path. Okay, if I want to uh, become a DevOps engineer, I have an option. If I want to become a machine learning engineer, I have an option. So these are the four major categories. You have foundational certification, you have associate, you have professional, and you have a specialty. Foundational has currently only one. AWS certified cloud practitioner is something that everybody can take. So irrespective of what career path you want to choose. And so by taking this, you will know what is cloud computing, and also you will learn about what all services are available in AWS cloud, and how and when you need to use them. You will definitely not cover all the services that are available on AWS cloud. That is a big and huge task for a single certification, but you will cover most of the important ones that are needed to get started. And then you have associate level certifications. You have architect, you have operations, and you have a developer track. It has to go in hand with your actual experience also. So that is something that we try to do in our workshops by providing a real world experience. Architect professional is for those who want to follow in an architect path, and preferably those who worked for some time on AWS cloud, and also who has taken AWS certified solutions architect associate certification. And DevOps engineer certification is mostly for people who are in operations or developer track, and who has taken the developer associate or operations associate. So initially it was only about cloud, getting better on the cloud, but now cloud is just a enablement thing. So most people prefer to focus on certain domains. Somebody want to um, get better on networking, so somebody want to specialize on security, somebody want to specialize on machine learning, otherwise somebody want to specialize on natural language processing, sometimes data analytics, sometimes database, sometimes AWS big data specialty. So Amazon has created this specialty certifications for anybody who want to do a specialization on some particular domain areas. There is no restriction on what career path you can choose. You can choose whatever path you want for your career. You can either become an expert in AWS services by taking any of the professional path, or you can do a mix of specializing on a particular domain on AWS cloud. And the good thing is, once you have a good handle of any of the cloud providers, you can easily make a switch to any other cloud provider, because most of the things that we learn in this course will be similar for most of the cloud providers. Only the terms differ, but the concepts remain the same. I'm assuming you do not have any doubt, and I am continuing with the ideas for starting a career in cloud computing session. And first question is, are you a computer science engineer or not? We have many people who are not computer science engineers, and then many people who are not even engineers. I always share this example. My wife is from electronics background, so she's completely out of uh, computer science, and then she joined a company as a software engineer, as a support engineer, and then after marriage she learned cloud computing and software development in general, and then moved to a completely full stack role. And last week she also took the AWS cloud practitioner certification. So there is nothing restricting you from becoming a engineer on cloud, as long as you have that interest within you. So why should I go and invest time to go into a career in cloud computing? This was one question I got in our last session. The demand for cloud computing jobs is always more than supply, and there is always a career path in cloud. So people with programming skills may choose a developer path, as we saw when we saw the certification paths. People with DevOps skills may choose a DevOps path, and the people who want a specialization can take specialization on networking, security, machine learning, natural language processing, data analytics, database, and big data, and more around the way. Somebody asked me in a casual talk recently, I am learning cloud computing, but I'm afraid uh, after I learn, what will I do? I asked them, are you confident that you are learning well and you can clear interviews if provided a chance? So they said, I am learning well, but I don't know whether I'll get a chance or what will I do until I get that chance. So that is where you have opportunities to train others. If you are good, I can help you on that. And you can even start a startup with little or no investment. You learn about cloud computing, and why wait until you have to work for somebody else? You can start your own startup with little or no investment, and if that startup do not work, stop it. But the learning that you get from that startup will be invaluable. You can take that knowledge and you can go to any company and they will definitely value you. And what if that startup gets successful? Then you do not have to work for anybody anytime. You can be your own boss. And how can I get real world experience in cloud computing? So this is a question that I used to get even when I used to teach Java and other languages. How can I get real world experience uh, in this software industry? For uh, Java and all, it was difficult to give a real world experience. I can ask them to work on some pet projects or work on my projects that I built for my books. But with cloud computing, everything is real. So whenever you get a free trial or free tire, you are getting the real infrastructure, real quality services that even the highest paying enterprise IT company gets. So you are getting everything real. So there is no question of a real world experience. You can build a imaginary startup idea, or you can build a pet project, or you can do some experiments and write the results of your experiments as a blog, or you can create YouTube videos. You can author or co-author books. If you would like to author or co-author, then you can let me know. I can try to help you. You can review others books and get your name printed within those books, uh, because there were people who used to work with me, who used to study with me, and so they used to learn from me. All all my students who actually learned from me and participated in the books review along with their learning process have got their names printed in my book titled AWS Security Book, which you can refer to. You can go to the acknowledgement page and you can see it for yourself. And imagine, so that is actually something which you can even tell in your resume, that I was part of this learning adventure, and my name is now available on books that are sold across the globe. And another thing that you can do is to attend lot of meetups and conferences. All the books, all the videos, all the courses will get outdated at some point of time, and whatever new that is happening in the industry are generally shared in these meetups and conferences. So attend them. So there are free meetups, there are paid conferences. You have to attend many of them if you really want to become an architect in future. And you will also connect with a lot of people, and that way you will also get a lot of opportunities. And so now I have a quick question for you for my learning purpose. What is your preferred way of learning? So can you all help me out by answering this poll that is available on your screen? I can see that majority of you learn from video courses. Next to that, people learn from live webinars. And next to that, people learn from blogs and online tutorials. And lastly, they learn from reading books. And as an author, I feel really bad for this. In any way, it is anyway. You are learning from these things, and that is a good thing. Okay, and I will share the results quickly with you. Okay, so this is our next question. How many of you actually complete the video courses that you buy? You will get video courses very cheap in many online platforms. So how many of you actually complete them? How many of you have bought courses and not completed them? How many of you actually buy courses and complete everything? Majority of you feel you have completed partially, and the next set feels I have not even started or or I have not completed at least half, and the rest feel I have completed all the online courses I have bought. So in general, I can see because of offers, many people buy online courses and then they never complete it. So they will think, okay, I will complete it later, and then that later never comes. So that is where live things can help, because there is a time restriction, and even the actual courses can help that has a time restriction. So if you have a course for 6 months, then you need to know that, okay, I have to complete it within that time, otherwise I will not get the resources. So what is your preferred pricing model for trainings? Please do your morning exercises by clicking. Even I am feeling a bit sleepy because I slept off early yesterday, and then I realized early morning, oh my god, I have to finish the PPTs. So I got up very early and then I was working on the PPTs. Okay, so this one I have more responses. So let us end the poll and then share results. So yeah, people like paid trainings or webinars with very less fee, most of them. And second is free webinars or free training. And the third, and nobody actually want to pay very high fee for a paid training or a webinar. So if you have to pay that high fee, then why not join a university course or a full-time course? Why attend a webinar? It is also something that is relevant from the book I am currently reading called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. In this book, he is talking about US, but the mentality of people is the same almost everywhere. So he says that we have in this country what is said to be the greatest public school system in the world. We have invested fabulous sums of fine buildings. We have provided convenient transportation for children living in the rural districts so that they may attend the best schools. But there is one astounding weakness to this marvelous system: it is free. One of the strange things about human beings is that they value only that which has a price. Okay, and so that is true in many situations, because you can think for yourself, if you join a course for free, you will get a feeling, okay, it is free, so why should I care about it? And if it is not free, you will get a feeling, okay, I paid my money, so I have to somehow make use of it. Again, if it is a video course with no time restriction, you will feel I have paid the money and it is available for me to take it anytime, so I'll take it sometime. And if there is a time restriction, you will think, okay, I have paid for it and then I have to complete it within this time frame, otherwise my money will get wasted. Okay, so always prefer for low fee ones, and also for time restricted ones. And for, but that does not restrict you from taking a free webinar if you are really dedicated. So if you are dedicated, and if you really want to learn, and if you value the trainer's time also, who provide you free trainings, then you should attend it with full dedication, attend every class from the beginning, and then do it thoroughly and get benefited, and then later you can also help others. Okay, so now quickly, do you have any questions related to your career in general? If you are really serious about learning about cloud computing, you can join this course and you can learn everything for free. And if you want to attend quizzes or practice questions along with practicing, then you can register for our app at quizandcloud.com. And by attending the quizzes here during our live sessions, you get a chance to get that membership for free. So we will go to our quiz championship. So this time everybody should answer the quiz, because this is an opportunity for you to get the get a membership to our quiz app, because you get lots and lots of practice quiz questions which you can practice and then clear certifications. So this is our Cloud 101 quiz for the day. The winner of the quiz will get a free membership to our quiz app. Others who come second and third will get almost free. The first 10 will get at a special price. And there is also one more special bonus coming up for all who participate in this final quiz, irrespective of whether you win or not. Okay. So which of the following is true? Type 1 hypervisors run VMs directly over a bare metal. Most of you made it correct. Which company created Docker? So you can go to heartin.live and attend the quiz. Okay, again, many of you made it right. So we have more people joining for the quiz. So this is that effort that I asked you to put for making use of this free training. So you have to put some effort. So without any effort, you won't be able to learn a lot. Who currently manages Kubernetes project? Everybody made it right this time. Wonderful. Kubernetes as a service on public cloud. So this was on the on one of the PPTs, and this is a test for your observational skills. EKS, there is not so there is nothing called EKS on Azure. Also, there is nothing called AKS on AWS. So GKE is Google's Kubernetes engine. EKS is on AWS, and AKS is on Azure. Who is responsible for managing operating system in infrastructure as a service abstraction? So just try to answer, because even if you do not come for next session also, you will have a feeling that, okay, I learned something from this session and it was not a complete waste of time. Yeah, majority of you made it right this time. And one more thing, the speed at which you answer also have points. So that is why, so even if you answer it correctly, sometimes you are not coming up on top. This was also a observational test, as we saw this in one of the PPTs. I also quickly talked about it, even though I did not stress about it. Serverless programming model. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, multi-cloud PaaS, or function as a service. Okay, majority of you made it right. And if you do not make it right, so don't worry, you are still seeing the answer and you are still learning. So that is most important. Which of these are public cloud providers? This is an easy question, so everybody should answer fast. and that is all of the above. So AWS, Azure, GCP, all of them are public cloud providers, and your certification questions will be also of this kind, right? So you have to select the most appropriate answer. Which of the following is a customer responsibility in a shared responsibility model? Okay, encrypt data at rest. Many of you made it right. Which is the correct order of evolution? We saw this in our session. Majority of you made it right. Are cloud native applications specific to cloud providers? Okay, I'm surprised people still made it wrong, but from now on, you should remember that cloud native is nothing that is native or specific to a cloud provider. Cloud native is currently used to represent applications that are built for the cloud, not just AWS cloud or Azure or GCP or any other public clouds. It is built keeping cloud in general in mind. Okay, so this is our final chart. Each of you will be getting a surprise gift. Your mobile or whatever app you attended this quiz, you will see what position you are. You can take a screenshot. You can go to heartin.me, go to my Facebook page and post it. Or if you have my WhatsApp contact, you can post me in WhatsApp. Or if you want to post it in LinkedIn, you can go to heartin.work and then post it there. So post it to me in some way so that I will get it and I will get back with your prizes. Okay, just a quick question before we go to the surprise of the day for everybody who attended. So just a quick poll. So the question is your job in any way affected by COVID-19? More than half has said it has affected in some way, and the remaining of you said it is not affected. Okay, I will quickly share the results for you. We are actually doing some initiatives for COVID-19 affected people. We are giving free training and free mentoring, and we are also giving them tools to provide their own trainings. We will try to arrange part-time jobs for them, and I will personally be giving them opportunity to work with me on my next book. And apart from that, if you have any questions or suggestions or guidance required, you can contact me. So you can go to my page in Facebook. People usually say my second name is a bit difficult to pronounce or remember. That is why I have set up this shortcut called heartin.me, where you type heartin.me in your browser and you can go to my Facebook page. So don't feel that you are alone in this fight. Serverless programming on AWS by BPB Publications is my new book that I am currently working on. So if you want to be part of this book in any way, you can let me know. So this is only applicable for anybody who stayed till the end up to this point and participated in the quiz. And also, quiz and talk model is a set of experiments that I am trying to do for online mode of trainings. Main challenge with the online trainings or live webinars is to get the audience involved, to get that feedback from them, to get that validation from them. For that purpose and to make them engaged, I am trying out with different modes of ways of teaching and learning. These things I collectively refer to as a Quiz and Talk model of trainings. So this week's surprise I have already mentioned. It is an opportunity to work with me on my next book. So you can learn from me. You can ask me questions directly. You can work on the project that is being developed for the book. And in a way, you can get real world experience. And all this for free. Plus, I will also give you credit in the book within the acknowledgement section. And you will also get a free copy of the book. All these are available for anybody who attended this training and up till this point. So you can send me a message in heartin.me saying that I have attended the training until this point and I would like to be a part of your next book. If you are somebody whose job has got affected by COVID-19, we will also pay you a bit based on our capacity until you get another job. So these are the ways you can keep in touch with me. And if you have already registered for this webinar, you don't have to register again. You can use the same registration to continue attending next week's sessions. Okay, and next week we will actually start with AWS Cloud Practitioner certification. And I hope at the end of this training series, everybody will be good with their basics on cloud computing on AWS. If you have any more questions, you can post it now. Yeah, Navya Krishnan has asked, can I learn a practical session here in future? So practical sessions are a continuation to it. So this first webinar will be a live one where we will be discussing the theory, and later we will have a practical session where you would actually work on topics that we discussed during our initial theory live webinar. So if you are interested, you can message me in heartin.me and I can help you out there in adding you to the other group. So that is a closed group and that is a meeting rather than a webinar. So everybody will get their chance to talk and explain their challenges and then learn together. Rindu has asked, most of the working professional suggesting that certification is necessary to get job abroad. Is it a must credential if you learn and know the content alone? So very good question. If you learn and if you know the content, you can definitely get a job as long as you have a experience supporting it. So certification is mostly for people who do not have any experience. So the company who is hiring you should also get a feeling that okay, he has put some effort, he knows something, and somebody has verified it. So that is the only purpose of certification. But if you have work experience and if you know the things you do, you can definitely get a job even without a certification. Okay, I am assuming there are no more questions today. Actually, we went ahead of our time, but I am assuming it was helpful for you in some way, and all of you learned something about cloud computing today. And let us continue this learning in future weeks. There is one more question. Okay, that is thanks for your valuable information. Can we, and one more question in the chat. Okay, Rindu has mentioned I don't have a Facebook or LinkedIn. What to do? So should I tell my husband as he's classmate? He is having. You can you can post it from your husband also. That is perfectly fine. You can just share the screenshot of your quiz score from any other channels also, or you can even reply back to the email that you received for contacting me when you registered your webinar. And can we be provided a platform and a problem statement to get experiences along with sessions? Yeah, that we will definitely plan. And if you want to do it along with the team, you can message me in my page, and then I can include you to the close group. I want only people who are really serious to learn to be part of the close group meeting. Okay, you can contact me. That is it for today, and thanks a lot for attending and staying for the whole time. From coming weeks, we will try to restrict our theory session for only 1 hour, and rest of the time we'll have another meeting for the close group to actually practice things. Okay, so 1.5 hours or 90 minutes for the theory, this particular webinar, and later 90 minutes for the practice and hands-on workshop. Okay, and thank you everybody for attending this session, and hoping to see you all next week. Bye bye.